Hello, Chris.
Hello, Arne, and hello to all our wonderful viewers and listeners out there. We're
You
back,
little dragon lovers, you out there. Happy to have you back again.
and anyone that's just clicked on by accident, of course,
Yeah. We're searching for dragons.
is searching for
Yes.
dragons.
What happened here? Why is there chests here?
Yes,
Well,
yes,
you will know soon enough.
you certainly will. So, I have another game for us today, Arne, a Grandmaster encounter
Okay.
in Back to the Good Old Yugoslav Attack. So, I suggest we crack straight away, get underway, and off we go. And here we have it. The Sicilian Dragon. I don't need to describe too many of these moves up till here, except, of course, we now have the 100% Yugoslav attack. Black castles, white queen d2, preparing castling queenside, knight c6. And this is where we usually have the deviations. White can play g4 here. White can play bishop c4 here. And in this game, though, we see white castle queenside, which some may know you have named the modern variation. That's it. Well, that's it. That one, which was unbeknownst to myself, but or whatever. So anyway, the 9 castles. Let's just assume it is pretty modern. It's what lots of people do these days. So we'll go along with that. So it's 9 castles, and it's over to black to play. Now, you know, I was thinking about this, and I think hopefully so far everyone's enjoyed everything that we've done, but there might be possibly 1 or 2 people out there saying, you know, these games have been very entertaining, very enjoyable, very pretty, but possibly a little bit fluffy. And we'd like to get down to some hard-nosed, latest cutting-edge theory. And to those people, I say, you're not welcome around here. No. Actually, no. I don't say that at all. I mean, you're in luck today because we're going to do something a little bit more theoretical, okay? As I discuss a mainline variation and a few ideas. Of course, in quite a nice, entertaining package, hopefully.
Let's take a look, yeah.
This is it, mainline, and black plays the move d5, which I consider to be the best move here, really, for black. And we're going to enter, actually, the old main line for many, many years, which sees white taking here and black recapturing here on c6. So it is, of course, possible for white to take a pawn here, queen take. Oh, I'll just quickly pop that in here.
Yeah, just quickly.
So we have here, and white takes this, and white does win a pawn, but black says, no way, we're not having the queen swapped off. I've got these half-open piles in the direction of your king. And of course, the eagle-eyed will notice that white can take a rook. But after bishop f5, the rook is now hitting the queen, and the queen's threatening mate on c2. So white basically has to take this. And we have a nice little imbalance where white actually has a couple of rooks for a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 early in the morning. A rook, 2 rooks and a pawn for a queen. But still, the queen works very, very well with the bishop.
Oh, yeah. It's like 3 bishops almost, yeah.
So, yeah. So, base, right, 3 bishops, excellent. So, essentially, yeah, that's a possible. Not many white players, to be fair, choose to take that pawn. It's not really a great line for white to do. So, definitely the most popular move is bishop d4 here. And essentially, white's logic is, if we can just swap off all the pieces, then long-term, black's got a couple of weak pawns over here, which they would like to exploit. Isolated pawns, of course. So black really wants to avoid too many fair swaps on the squares they currently are. Now, a very fashionable line. Well, we're about to look at the old main line here, which is still played quite a lot. One possibility for black is to swap off and then play queen b6, which seeks to iron out the structure over there. And white doesn't really get to win a pawn by swapping, because then the a2 pawn will be hanging to the rook on a8. So therefore, white, in turn, should not accept the swap of queens, and then the queen will drop back, and the game goes on. But we're not looking at that. We're actually looking at the old main line today, which sees black saying, no thanks, I want to keep more pieces on the board. I'm going e5. Admittedly, I'm blocking my dragon bishop in, but I'm planning later to advance that pawn to e4 and liven it up again later in the game.
So it's like a bit of a trying to control the center a bit more as well with this.
Yeah, it is. It is. But I think primarily you just want to avoid the swap of bishops.
Yeah, gotcha.
That's useful. And white plays bishop to c5. Now, I know you've been paying a lot of attention, and you've probably gone through all our DVDs by now, Honor. But one thing you probably have definitely picked up is the value of this bishop compared to this rook. When I first was learning as the dragon as a junior, I heard the phrase that the dragon bishop is as good as a white rook. So therefore, if bishop takes rook in this position here, and queen takes, the implication is a bishop is as good as this rook. And in this particular, I wouldn't say that's the case all the time, but particularly when we're looking at half open B files and action along this diagonal here, I think it's extremely risky. And actually, the engine's already really quite like black in this position. White should take that.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So it's not a good idea to take it. So instead, white plays knight e4 to block that pawn. And now in this position here, black played the move rook e8, which is the main move. Now, when I, as a junior, used to play this, because probably someone's saying, well, why are you moving the rook if you were bigging it up about being better than that bishop? Why move it? Well, I used to play rook b8 in this position, just immediately get the rook. But what used to happen is the bishop could come back and here, and you usually find that you want to be rousing this pawn anyway. So it's a bit premature, maybe, to go rook e8. That's why rook e8 is the more popular move. So this is still the main line, and no great surprise here. Then white plays h4. Now, although this bishop has been denied the opportunity to swap off its opposite number, the dragon bishop on g7, which is often required to deliver a checkmate down here with the queen, because this bishop is covering an escape square for the black king, if white can open the h file and get down to h7, that will actually be checkmate. Yeah, so h4 is still a very valid plan here in this position here. And typically, black responds with the move h6. We have a very crafty situation emerges, whereby after g4, black now will want to start connecting the rooks, particularly with in mind bringing a rook to the d file here. And now white has a choice. White can either advance this pawn, in which case black keeps everything closed by going g5, or they move the g pawn, after which black plays pawn to h5. Now, in this particular position, though, black played something that's slightly different, which is it's not a novelty by any means, but it's certainly not the most common move by a long way. Black played h5 immediately.
Yes.
And in a minute,
if I may say so, also almost modern.
Yeah, very Soltis-like, you'd probably say, blocking that pawn touch here. Now, probably one of the immediate downsides you might argue is that then that concedes this square here on g5. But if, for example, in this position here, white was to play the move knight to g5 and rook b8, bringing the rook. Also, presumably, there's the option for black to play bishop h6, by the way, doing a little bit of pinning. But rook b8, let's see what might happen if white took here and black took here. The problem is he no longer has a blocker on that square, which means, and I really like this, whether, for example, white played the move pawn to c4 or bishop to c4. Let's look at pawn to c4. Then black can go e4 immediately. And suddenly there's action going on down here.
This looks like a lot of action. Like
it does. And I noticed one particularly neat, if white took this, for example, would have this check and king here. And now we could simply calmly take back. And now there's action along the c file as well as here. Let's suppose I just noticed some really neat variation, which I have to show you. It's so amusing. Queen to a5. So suddenly the queen's in on the out, not swapping queens, coming into c3. That's going to help deliver mate. And if white tried to play queen to c4 to cover that c3, then rook c6, we're attacking here that bishop there on c5. And of course, it's pinned to the queen. So white would have to play rook d5. Now, how about this for a cute move? Bishop there. Look at that. You can take me 3 different ways, but none of them are any good. So you can't take with the bishop because you'll end up losing the queen. Actually, black could probably play queen takes d5, first of all, rather than take the rook. And you can't take it with the rook because the rook takes c5. And if you take it with the queen, then we're going to have a juicy little lawnmower mate down the middle of the board. Coming towards us down the board there. So I think the problem with knight g5 is, although it might eye up this bishop here, you're losing the blocker for the e4 square.
But can I quickly? Sorry, I need to ask for this variation too. What if the queen would take on b2 instead? So that'll
then
be...
You're gonna get basically. Then you're accumulating pieces for the queen. I mean, we're going to get similar things in the game where you might get for a queen.
Interesting.
So, well, the problem is the king will be super exposed, and you're going to get what are you going to get? A rook, maybe 2 pieces, and a rook, but probably one of those pieces will be lost to a little sequence of.
Exactly. There's still the very shaky bishop.
Very shaky. That's always the problem when you get the exposed king position. And don't forget, there's lots of pieces left on the board as well remaining.
True.
Instead of knight g5 here, White thought, no, I'm not going to do that. Come on, let's get in the spirit of things. G4, of course, being the idea. And I think if black was to take this pawn now, I think it's asking for trouble. Really. I just think it's asking for trouble. I don't want to get mated down the down the H file. So black said, no, I'm not going to take that pawn. And black played the move knight f4. Now, I really want to talk about this knight here on d5 because I've jumped the gun a little bit here. This knight is on a wonderful, wonderful square on d5, and it's very frustrating for white. But truth be told, any black piece on d5 will be good. Ultimately, of course, black would love to be transferring a pawn over to d5. But having a bishop on d5 would be quite useful, a queen on d5, or even a rook long-term parked on d5, as if tormenting the opponent, saying, come on, swap me off if you want. And then, of course, the c-pawn will be ironed out. I like that phrase. To join its compatriot on e5 with a nice couple of center pawns. So we're back here then, and we have white playing the move today. So we might have having the move g4, and black responded with knight f4. So what's happening here is black is now saying, well, I'm offering support to this. If you take on h5, I'm going to take back with a knight. And meanwhile, back at the ranch, I might take that pawn at some stage, particularly if the queens get swapped off, and start accumulating some pawns. So white said, no way. You're not doing that. I'm going g5. I'm binding down on that square on f6. But, it took me, it's not exactly rocket science, this, but it took me a while to realize, do you know what? Black basically has gained a little move by that little experience because h5 was played in one move, one turn, whereas in the other main line, black played h6. And then when white played g5, black played h5 from h6. So that was like a nice little gain of tempo. Now, often you wonder, well, what exactly am I going to do with that tempo? Of course, you can activate the rook on b8, look to try and get some action down there. But what I like about this plan here is what black did. Even though the knight is very good, as I've just mentioned there, on the square f4. Look what happened next. White, so basically white played g5, and now black put that bishop on d5. And now it's going to be a case of all change, because the knight is now looking to hop around and come into d4. And the beautiful thing is, if, of course, then white takes that, then the dragon bishop is one step closer to being activated along that diagonal. So here we have it here. So over to white now to decide what is white going to do about this plan. Very simple plan of playing knight e6. If white now wanted to budge this with c4, for example, here, then black can trade off here, because this time around, whether or not the queens come off, well, actually, if the queens don't come off, I'd be very tempting to keep the queens on the board. And the whole idea is now we have this lovely maneuver, which is going to be an outpost, of course, for the knight here, and a chance to get some action with the major pieces along the A and B file. And back at the ranch, of course, the black king is safe as houses over here, with nothing going down on the H file or the G file.
I guess a lot of players will prefer black here in this position already, I guess.
Yeah, well, not typically, of course. Don't forget, at the moment, this knight has been sitting pretty here, eyeing up this square here, and the dragon bishop is, it's not its normal self, of course, here at the moment. So a bit of work needs to be done.
Gotcha.
But this whole plan of putting the bishop on d5 and the knight to maneuver to e6 and d4 looks quite an appealing one. So white now played queen e3. One of the reasons is that threatens kind of to go c4 now because the bishop into the queen. The problem is now wherever the queen moves is going to make a concession, and the concession it made by going here was to allow the black queen to squizzle over here to a5. Where, of course, we're now eyeing up this particular pawn here, potentially this here as well, but particularly threatening queen takes pawn on a2. So white played a3, fair enough, and now the black knight continued its little journey, knight e6. So what is it doing here? Well, it's doing a couple of things. First things first, of course, eyeing up this d4 square, which is a lovely, lovely square, but also potentially prepared to take this if it's going to facilitate the dragon bishop being opened up along that diagonal. Options, at least for the knight. And the white bishop dropped back here. The white bishop dropped back to b4, attacking the queen, which then came back to b6 with another one of those teasing things. Oh, did you say you wanted the queens off? Well, there's a price to be paid if you want to swap off the queens here. And I think that would be, if the queens came off here, I think black would be very, very happy with the endgame situation there.
Next move, c5, and there's pressure on the a file, and knight has a good spot. Yeah, I think now swapping the queens is nice.
You are picking it all up on, I have to say. Full marks to you at the moment.
Just lucky.
Just lucky. So white in turn says, no. Okay, in that case, you take the queens off if you want, but you're keeping those isolated pawns over there. And now black played, there's a couple of really neat things here that I love here. Black played a very interesting move with the move pawn up to c5, throwing the cat amongst the pigeons. But another move which I really like the idea of here, this is really cute here. You would have thought it's just an impossible move to play. But black could actually also play f5.
Oh.
Which would be a move that anyone would play if they weren't aware of the rule called en passant, of course. But there's a really neat thing about the en passant thing.
Now I'm curious.
So the whole idea... The curious thing about en passant is that there's a special rule to do with it, which says you can only play en passant on that first turn. You can't then leave it a bit later and then go, oh yeah, I'll deploy en passant now. So the idea is
now I get it. Yeah.
If he takes here, then we get to swap queens and then do a little pin.
That's nice.
And because of course g5 is covered by the black knight as well.
That is nice.
Bishop.
Yeah.
And if white says no thanks, I'll swap off the queens first, then en passant no longer becomes an option.
True. That's very nice. Yeah. What a great find, actually. This is very, very interesting indeed.
So instead, though, black played also another very interesting move, pawn to c5.
Yeah.
Because, of course, that pawn is attacking this bishop, looking to blast open the b file, of course. But of course, at the moment, white does have 3 pieces attacking c5, and black's only got 2 defending it. So he really needs to take it. He played knight takes c5. Was there an option to do bishop takes c5? I think had he taken with the bishop, the point is that if we now swapped off takes, then of course black is winning this pawn here.
Yeah, and the game, look at this. Come on.
I mean, I wouldn't rule it out entirely, but because white does potentially have connected pass pawns. But you have to say, in an open board like this, you'd really favor the bishop pair.
Yeah, I was a bit quick, but you're right. There are a lot of pawns on that side.
So, but they've got a way to get down the board. So white took on c5 with the knight. Black took back, and then here the problem is, of course, again, if white was to take this with the queen, then f3 is going to be hanging. There's going to be some open pass. Probably, I suspect that was probably the more prudent thing to do. But white instead took with the bishop on the grounds that, of course, there's no bishop takes f3 intermezzo at the moment because the queen's attack. So essentially, white has won a pawn, if you like, it's genuinely pawn sacrifice here. But now the queen calmly dropped back to b7, which means we're ganging up on that instantly with 2 pieces, and we're still along the b file. Which means, for example, if white just casually defended this with the bishop, then e4 would be a really nice discovered attack down here on b2.
That's nice, yeah.
So white's got to do something, and there's no other satisfactory way to protect this pawn, which of course doesn't allow the discovered attack. So white played rook h2, probably as good as anything else, at least making sure that when this is taken, the rook's not attacked, and potentially there might be some lateral defense going along here. In any instance, of course, black played e4. And I think this is just to go to show there's some quite nice things here, because we're attacking b2. White chose this moment to drop the bishop back to d4 to challenge that. But had white played, for example, the move pawn to c4, which I mentioned before, then I think black could actually just have casually dropped the bishop back to e6, because this shows just how exposed some of these pieces are. For example, after queen takes e4, queen c7 with a very simple.
That is nice. Now I see it. Bishop g1. But
yeah, bishop to g1 already. And then bishop d7. And guess what? Skewer time.
Gee. That's nice.
So, yeah. And also, if, for example, black took that pawn, after here, white took this pawn with the pawn, then I think bishop to f5. Now, look at this king's ready to be in a bit of a crossfire with these bishops along here. And after bishop d3, for example, I think queen b3 is really kind of piling the pressure up. Maybe the queen could invade. Of course, there's a ping going on here. There's the b file. So it looks pretty dangerous. So probably that's no great surprise that the white bishop chose to go to d4 to challenge that dragon bishop and say, what's going on. We're going to find something else very instructive in a second, though, because what happened is black did take here. And then we got these, and then e takes f3.
I thought it might have been the imbalance part where we take immediately on f3 and then the queen takes on e8. But after all, this might be better.
Do you know what? Excuse me, mister. Can I just give you full credit? Full credit, because we're going to get something similar to that. But I, too, agree absolutely 100%. And I think this would have been very nice for black.
Yeah. Okay, yes.
Which is just what you said. That's exactly what you said. Yeah. Actually, we're going to get something like that anyway. But I think specifically, I think that would have been an even more accurate option. Yeah. Because again, the problem is connected passed pawns. You can't really go razzing them down the board when your opponent's got a queen and bishops buzzing around. And also, when you have so many pieces on the board, of course, it's kind of like getting them coordinated is not so easy. And of course, throw into the mix this passed pawn here. We're going to get something like that in the game as it happens.
Sorry for this interruption, but thanks. Yeah. Thanks for.
No worries. I think that's great. So instead, we have bishop takes d4, queen takes d4, and then e takes f3. So at the moment, the white back rank is a little bit vulnerable. To give you an example, if black now took on e8, and then played rook to d2 to, reactivate the rook, I guess. Otherwise, it's a bit of an awkward check. Oops, daisy up, jump the gun, jump the gun. Whoops, daisy. Let's get that swinging back here, everybody. Giving you a bit of a clue as to what might happen. Here we've got the checks on the back rank. Rook to d2. And now look at this. This would be quite a cute move. Rook e4. The point being...
Wait a second.
Let's see. Can you see tactically, what's the problem with queen takes d5?
Check. Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah. Okay, well, I'm sorry that it took a while.
No, it doesn't take. It's good.
Yeah, it's nice.
Tactic. So basically, the check, and we can take the queen because the rook is kind of... Can you call that overloaded? It's tied up a bit. It can't take the queen because he's trying to block the check. And equally, if the queen just casually dropped back along here, then I think check and then f2, and we're super piling the pressure on with that pawn around about there. So instead, white played rook d1, keeping the rooks on the board, and black played rook a d8. And here's where we're going to get something very similar to what you were talking about. White activated the other rook, dub trebling now on the d file, and the bishop moves. And here white did do exactly this, and we got that imbalance that we're talking about. Now, I have to say, and I think this position, a lot of people wouldn't really understand this, but I think black is doing pretty well in this position here. And this is because I've gone on and on about it. If it was simply two flat rooks against a queen and there was not much going on, then you'd have time to coordinate the rooks, move around, gang up on a weak pawn, win it, and not expose the king and everything. But when there's so many other things going on the board, it's just not so easy to do that. And I'll give you an example here. White, of course, now thinks, well, where can I gain any action whatsoever? And probably highlighting this pawn about as good as it gets. White played the move bishop c4 here. And now black played queen c7, hitting the bishop.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, I didn't even see that.
Over here. So
f4 is what I was looking at the whole time.
Yeah, and of course, this is the whole point. The queen is just a monstrous piece. So good. I mean, how many points do we think a queen's worth, by the way? How many would you say?
It's supposedly 9 points, while a rook has 5 points. So technically, two rooks are, in an endgame, often considered the better option. But as you already mentioned earlier, when there's a lot going on, when there's so many threats, all of this, then the queen is just over OP, as you might say, overpowered.
Yeah, I mean, I would go along with that. And obviously, when I'm teaching chess, I go by the usual, 3 points for knights and bishops. Actually, Julian Hodgson tends to teach his kids that a queen's worth 10. There you go. He's got straight away to it and said, there you go, 10 points.
Maybe it is 10 points. Like, don't get me super wrong. Oh, gosh, should I quickly check this up? How many? How many?
I think there must be a complete, isn't there a real, John M's, there's a complete computer assessment based on analyzing millions and millions of positions that tells you that how much they're really worth now relative to each other.
So yeah, it is, as I said, actually, the queen has 9 points. And there is an interesting option for...
Wait, you didn't just Google that to find out?
I had to Google it for a second, because there's an interesting option for what is it? Not Fernschach, but the chess, which is correspondence chess.
Right. Okay.
Where there's a lot of different variations for the points, but the rook is 5.2 points, and I think the bishop is 3.33.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying, and I think lots of that is computers, when I've analysed millions of positions, so you'll find that the bishop's a bit more than the knight, blah blah blah.
Yes.
Anyway, at the end of the day, you always have to give the answer. It depends on the position, of course. And in this position here, I'm saying the queen's better. It's attacking the bishop through at the moment. White played b3 to protect that bishop. Couldn't really be moving it too far, bearing in mind c2 was attacked, and now that black pawn continued its journey up to f2. But I have to say, equally good would be queen h2, I think, because you could literally just keep popping off these pawns, and even after this check, the king would be pretty safe over here, and you're left with 3 connected pass pawns.
That was what I thought in my head as well, this variation.
So I think the idea is connected pawns alongside a queen are going to be absolutely awesome, and the rooks are not very good at stopping those when there's an enemy queen buzzing around. But black played f2, and I'm glad black did play f2, because that got to see us a lovely move up next. Okay. So white now decided, okay, well, we can see this check is still being opened up on f4. So white played rook here to block out the queen, to try and minimize the counterplay that the queen might often offer, and presumably look to swizzle the rook over there, which could actually be very annoying, I suspect. Very annoying.
Yes.
But can you spot? Okay, feel free everyone to stop stop your YouTube or whatever it is, pause it now to see if you can see a very neat move that black can play here.
I guess some people who are really serious about it are checking the position on the chess-based news site, which is always part of the whole video.
Excellent.
The analysis of Chris Ward are there from the bottom to the top. So if you play along when on the chessboard. So my immediate idea, and I don't think it's because it's such a silent, weird move. It's Bishop F5.
Bishop F5. Okay, and I have to say, that does not seem to be a bad move at all. Except, can I just say, one of the things I'm not sure about is, we're just doing this on the fly here. Maybe we can go rook here, because my point is, even though you've got this queen check and potential, if I get this here, the black king's in a little bit of a net, actually. If not for mate, for a perpetual check.
Yes, that is true, I guess.
And actually, check maybe, I'm not sure. And F1 is covered by
I'm looking at tactics, but there isn't that many, actually. I think I misplayed this. No, okay, I have to find a better move.
It's a better move, and
to not postpone it too much, give us the...
Right, I'm going to tell it to you. You look at this. And it's simple. Pure, simple overloading.
No, it's so simple, true.
It's so simple.
We've got a beautiful.
The rook can't... No, well, actually, the whole point is the bishop cannot take it because of checkmate on c2. That's clear. And unfortunately, just to show this line, this is what happened in the game. After queen takes rook, check. King here. This is what I mean. White would be able to get a perpetual check here on f8 and f7, were it not for the fact, of course, of the black queen's covering that square. It would simply be a case of up and down, up and down, up and down. But that's not happening. And after rook f6, desperately trying to lure the queen away from this square, the black queen stays on that diagonal forever. Basically, not going from anywhere from there, check. And then here, blocking that out. And now, of course, we're on the last legs. It is there. Those pawns. Game over. No check even on d7 there.
Very interesting.
Good example of why the queen is better than the rooks in that sort of position.
Yeah, very good example. Absolutely. Do you think the dragon player was calculating this variation when pushing f2 forward, because that is something maybe to
suspect they were probably quite surprised their opponent allowed maybe, but they were probably surprised the opponent allowed f1 at the end of it all, which was very nice move to do. But I think it would have been a case of judgment in general, maybe some variations, but also judgment that the queen and the bishop works better than the rooks, basically. I think so, and hopefully our readers will have taken that on board, and some of you will be shaking your head going, I don't believe that for a second. They're great. They go along straight lines, and also your maths is wrong. 5 + 5 makes 10. But of course, the problem was that queenside pawn majorities couldn't really get anywhere anytime soon, and the black pawns were always going to descend down the board. So
absolutely. Chris, this was wonderful as always. Thank you so much. Thank you for you at home for watching and paying attention. Put this in your database. We will see each other soon.
Thank you very much, everybody. See you again soon.
Bye-bye.